Hello everybody, it's Karen. Thanks for stopping by. I have got some cards today. I'm using this Christmas Cheer embossed die cut set from Paper Rose Studio. And as you can see, these little die cuts are beautiful. They all have a kind of a mosaic pattern on them and they are embossed, so they've all got a little bit of glossy accent to all of them. And so I wanted to do something with these. Now I kind of ran out of time with my video, so I've got one card I'm going to show you how I made, and then a few more examples of using these, and I'll explain to you what I did do. I just didn't have time to video it all. Now I wanted to use these reindeer, and I thought they would be really fun in a snow globe. And I have made this snow globe style card before, but I wanted to make this one a shaker's snow globe. So I'm going to switch it up just a little bit here. I wasn't sure if this would work or not. Now I have cut 3 circles of acetate. They are 4 3/4 inches in diameter. And I have used this lots and lots of circles die, which is one solid piece, and it cuts all those circles out in one pass. And so I've got lots left over, and I had some of these left over actually from another project that I was working on. But I really like that stitch accenting to it. So the outside of those measure 4 3/4 inches, and the inside is 4 inches. And on this one, I just cut a piece of cardstock and did some ink blending on it and spattered some white acrylic paint. And that will be at the back of my snow globe. So I just wanted a kind of a snowy look or feel to it. Now, I've got 3 more of these white rings, and they will go on the 3 pieces of the acetate. 2 of those are going to make the shaker card. So if you want, take a screenshot of this. This is the base of the snow globe, but I'll go through it with you anyway. So I'm using a piece of 4-inch tall by 10-inch wide card, and I'm using 120-pound cardstock for this. You do want the base to be quite sturdy because it's got to hold up all those rings. So it's best to use a really sturdy cardstock. But I'm scoring it at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and then again at 4 inches. And then we're going to jump across. So these are all going to be the sides that fold up. Between 4 and 6 inches, that is going to be the base of the snow globe. So the part that goes on the table. And then we're going to score again at 6 inches, 7 inches, 8 inches, and 9. So every inch we're scoring, except between 4 and 6. And so then we're going to rotate that, and now we're going to score at the 1/2 inch mark, but we're only going to go down to that 3rd score line at 3 inches there. So 1/2 inch in, just down to the 3rd score line, and then the same over at 3.5 inches, and again just down to that 3rd score line. So you don't have to make those super strong. They're actually cut lines, but it should look like that. And then we're going to rotate again another 180 degrees and score at 1/2 inch down to the 3rd score line, and at 3.5 inches down to the 3 inch or the 3rd score line again. So there's what we end up with. Now you don't need to do this part. I'm just showing you where we're going to cut. We're going to cut from the outside of the 4th score line inside to where that score line, that 1/2 inch score line is that we made, just to get that triangular shape. So I'm going to cut from outside the 4th score line to that 1/2 inch score line and straight down that line. Now don't save the score. You can get rid of that. And again, straight up to the 3rd score line, and over and across to the outside of the 4th score line there. And then we're going to rotate it around and do exactly the same thing on the other side. So straight up to the 3rd score line and over and across to the outside of that 4th score line. And same thing on the last side, straight up and then across and over diagonally. So not too hard so far, I think. My sister-in-law tells me I say things are easy and then they're not, but I don't think it's hard. Okay, so all of these are going to be mountain folds. We're going to fold them all down, and you want to burnish these. So they're all going to fold in the same direction. All mountain folds going inwards. And then we'll turn it around and do exactly the same thing on the other side. And so when you're done, you've got this kind of shape. So if you fold everything inwards the way it wants to go, you're going to end up with this base that looks like this. So that's the base of the snow globe. Okay, so to make the shaker, I have temporarily tacked in place one of the acetate pieces to one of the white rings. And I just did that so I knew exactly where my foam tape was going and I wasn't going to veer off and into where the actual snow globe part could be seen. So I've got some very thin foam strips that were from scrapbook.com, and I'm just adding these on. You want some dimension here for the shaker part. So I'm just going around making sure this stays on the white part and adding that to the acetate. Now I took an anti-static powder tool and I've gone around the inside of this so that the shaker bits don't stick to it, to the foam tape. And then you can add your shaker bits to that circle. Remove the release paper, and then we'll add another one of the acetate circles over top. And just give it a good press when you've got it all lined up and evenly on. Make sure it doesn't come apart. And then I can remove that ring from its temporary position. Now I've put some red line tape on 2 of these rings. And I've removed the release paper on one now, and I'll just center that shaker part right over top of that white ring and press that down. And then here is the second ring going on top on the other side. So it's sandwiched between the 2 white rings to hide all that foam tape. Now I did think about whether you could do 2 of these on each of those inside ones, but really when I looked at it, I think it's too wide to go in the middle there. I think that would really throw the measurements off. So I've left it as just one shaker window there. And here with the third piece of acetate, I'm attaching it down to that last remaining white circle and removing the release paper from that so that it's all stuck in place. So now all our rings are ready. I've added some double-sided adhesive tape to the first and last flaps of our base, and I also did to the second last one. I really should have done to the second last on both sides, but completely forgot to add the other one. So here I've taken the release paper off the one side and I've folded it down at the second fold line on the right, and now I can fold the base up and over and it will pick up exactly where it needs to get picked up. And so it should look like this now when you've got it stuck down. And now I'm removing the release paper on the other side, and I'm going to fold the base up and over again. So I'm sort of flattening out that one I just put down on the left there, and I'm folding the base over so it picks up the remaining side. So there's the base shape, the way it's going to go. Now to assemble this, we're going to start at the very back. Now I have a 5 by 7 inch envelope that these will fit into. So I am marking off where the 7-inch mark is. I don't want to go past that. So I have pushed that ring inside the 7-inch mark, and I'm centering my base over the bottom of that. And so now I can put glue where I know that base is going to go. And I'll just try to line up the base so it's fairly centered on that circle. I'm keeping it away from the 7-inch wide mark there, and I'm hoping that that's centered. Now you'll see I don't get it quite centered. It looks like it, but it wasn't quite. But I'm sort of pressing that down, and then I realized, oh, it wasn't quite right. So I sort of wiggled it over a little bit and got it a bit better centered. And so once they're centered, now you can push it right up against the top edge of your scoreboard. So I'm removing the release paper now on that second section of the base, and this circle should line up with the 6-inch mark because all our score lines were 1 inch apart. So I've got my ruler and I'm lining that up with the 6-inch. I've got that circle pressed right up against the top edge of my scoreboard in line with the one in behind it, And I'm just gently pushing this down because I really do want to make sure it's in the right spot. So I pull it away and I can look at it straight through, and it was lined up pretty well. So then I just pressed it right into that double-sided tape. And now I've put more tape on the other side, and I can remove the release paper on these, and then I will fold the whole base up and onto that second acetate window. So it'll pick it up where it's meant to go there. So now we've got two windows lined up. And now the last one, the shaker element, is going to go on the very front. So I'm pushing everything into the left side of my scoreboard and up against the top. And I'm marking off where the 5-inch mark is. And then this ring will reach as high up as that 5-inch mark. So I'm just holding it in place, and I want to put a little pencil mark on the back where the base meets this circle. I know you can't really see that. I'll show you that in a second here. So there are my pencil marks, so I know that's where I'm going to put my double-sided tape. So I'm putting some tape there and erasing my pencil marks. And then I can start removing that release paper. I don't take it all off because that red line tape is so sticky, so I prefer to have it just a little bit. And again, I'm pushing it up into the top of my scoreboard and off to the left. I can mark off the 5-inch mark because that's where this one should end. And then I can put my ring back onto my base and press down the part where I've released the release paper, and then I can take it all off and hopefully it's in the right place. And so then you can have a look through and make sure everything is nicely lined up, and this one worked out just fine. You could put snowbanks on the bottom of these. I've done that before. I was going to cover up the front, so I wasn't too worried. Now I'm using the large Christmas snowflake layered die here. I've die cut that from white cardstock, and I'm putting these snowflakes in on the back layer. And this one, I wasn't sure. I thought about putting it off to the side, but I didn't like that. So it's going on the center of this other snowflake. And you can see how well those shaker bits are rattling and moving around in there. Now, right between the base and that first shaker circle, I'm going to put the first reindeer. Now I wanted this one to be tucked down a little bit lower just so you could see the second reindeer right through the front. So I'm tucking it right down inside that gap there and pushing his little feet right down into there. And so when I did that, I realized that his one foot was sticking out, so I've just kind of very awkwardly cut that off. And then I had to straighten him out a little bit, but it does come off. And then I just straightened this reindeer out a bit. But I liked that he was standing right up against the window, to be honest, because then you really see that beautiful mosaic pattern on him. Now I'm putting glue on the back of the second reindeer, and I will attach him back in that first section, right at the very back, but up just a bit so you can see his head above the other one. And then just gluing him right down to that acetate in that middle layer. So there's a little look at the two reindeer, and it shakes really well, this one. Now, to cover up the front where all the shaker bits were, I chose this die cut and I trimmed it off on the bottom so it had a nice straight edge. I'm adding a bit of glue to the front circle and just a bit to the back of that die cut. And I will glue it right over the front there, just to hide some of those shaker bits. And then I've got one of these sentiments that's from the Christmas sentiment pack. And I've just trimmed around it and I've added that to the front. So there you have it. It's a shaker snow globe, which I thought was really quite fun. It folds down flat, apart from the actual foam on that shaker bit, but it does go flat. You can write on the back, and it fits a 5x7 envelope. So I thought that was good. Now, I was so behind this month, you guys. I have done a few more cards. I just didn't have time to video it all. So Here is another one of these embossed die cuts. Now, I've used the Crisp Christmas Sentiments again on this one. And that die cut frame is the spring floral frame. Now, I cut one layer, attached it to a card front, colored it in with Copic markers, and I added 2 more layers of that die cut frame in white over top of that. I took one of the center sections and I covered it with this distressed texture paste in sparkle, just to give it a bit more, I don't know, shine and sparkle, to make that middle bit stand out a bit more. It's quite a busy card. And that's all I did with this. I added the stocking, or added foam tape to the back of the stocking, and that sentiment. Now with this next one, I have used the paper piece rectangle die. I've cut it, colored in the inside sections with blues and greens, as you can see there. I put it down with one layer again of that outline of the paper piece, and I've covered all the blues and greens with this crackle paste in translucent. It didn't really crackle, but I did do that, and I've die cut the piece sentiment here 3 times from white cardstock and the shadow layer from vellum, and attached all that down. And then the last card that I did manage to get done, I've used the Ornate Swirls background die for this one and cut it from gold foil cardstock. And I've also taken the inside rectangle there and added that in around that gingerbread house. So that rectangle there, and then I just took that sentiment from the Crisp Christmas sentiment strips. So there you have it, guys, a few ideas on using up those embossed die cuts. Thank you for stopping by, everyone, and I hope you're having a great day. Bye.